couple episodes ago, we had a little conversation about USL, promotion relegation, and I thought you and I had a great conversation. Even though we didn't fully agree, I thought we both presented some really good options, and I think at the end of the day, no one could say anything negative about it. But then there's this thing called the comment section, and that allows people on the internet to say whatever the hell they want, and then we have to read it and feel bad about ourselves. So you and I, as comedians, have decided mostly we don't really care about the comments, but Carter does. So he read through the comments and picked apart seven ones that you think, I guess, will be constructive.
We'll have some fun with it too. We'll have some fun with it.
Oh, fun. But
All right,
this is your chance to get back at us, Carter. All right. So, Carter, you're going to read these out, and then I guess we'll react.
Correct. All right. So let's start with the first one. Carlos Takes High, I think is his name.
Okay.
If promotion and relegation is so awesome, why hasn't USL been doing it already? They've had multiple leagues already for years and years. We're supposed to believe that USL is simultaneously going to implement a first division and promotion and relegation and compete with MLS, and it's all going to be perfume and roses?
Okay.
A
little bit of
this is kind of like what I was telling you.
Yeah, it feels a little bit pointed at my comments because I took this is a pro. You took this as a rel. So I'll simply say, I think from having spoken to people at USL in the past, you and I both have, it seems like something that a lot of folks have wanted to do, and some people had some trepidation on doing. So I think it took getting owners to be convinced to do it. And I think that's been the problem from the beginning. So while I don't think everything's going to be roses and perfume, which I don't think you need both, because I think roses smell pretty good on their own, I do think that even though there will be missteps and there will be hardships, I think overall the pros outweigh the rels.
Yeah, and that's just similar to what we were saying before. I just think like highlighting the fact that it's going to be a little bit more complicated and difficult than it all seems. Like ProRel does not fix everything, and I think it's healthy to be optimistic, but be realistic about the challenges. And overall, the main thing that we all have to think about is that these owners want to make money. They don't care if ProRel exists or does not exist for the most part. There are some do and are really passionate about the game, but at the end of the day, what's going to bring in the most money and the most attention? And I already sort of noted that there are sort of two different conversations about being optimistic about ProRel and then competing with MLS.
Those are two different things.
They're two different things.
And we've made it very clear that USL has found a way to sustain itself without having a top division or competing with MLS. So if the punishment is to do exactly what's happening right now, that's what happens when you get knocked out of the top division, I actually think that's going to be fine.
Okay, so all right, what's next?
So I was right.
Why do you write it?
Next question.
Sure. All right, so Shake and Bake 5919 has actually a very interesting point. His point is...
Shut up, Alexis. Is that what
if the youth soccer pay-to-play model is not fixed or replaced, ProRel will just be for B and C teams that nobody will watch. This is putting the cart before the horse. Fix youth soccer first.
I don't disagree.
This is another one pointed at my point.
You're right.
So let me just say this.
Okay.
You have to take steps to do that. I think the way it should work, not will work, should work is more people will start lower league teams because this gives them an opportunity to get promoted up to the top versus have to have the ownership to be able to walk into the top, right? And because you're going to start lower league teams, these are going to be semi-pro. They're not going to be able to go out and pay major players. You're going to be inspired to want to build or partner with academies to develop players that can play in your team, in your system. And that's going to create just a lot more academies. And that will create a much more robust selling of high-quality players, creating of high-quality players, like we've seen Louisville City do, selling players to LA Galaxy and Benfica. And you're going to see that sort of come about naturally because by virtue of there being a promotion relegation and seemingly more people wanting to start teams from the lower leagues and work their way up to the top.
And yes, I mean,
and that is very roses and perfume.
To their point, yeah, it's really but the pay to play model doesn't necessarily go away overnight. It's going to take a long time.
I think you'll see it go away. Like if you and I start a Cooligans FC, a real Cooligans FC, not just a couple comics and improvisers. If we start a real team, we're going to want to be like, yo, there's a bunch of kids playing here. We should start an academy along with this, or we should start to partner with academies.
Sure.
And we're going to want the players that can play. We're going to want people to come in and play well, not just that can pay us, because that model, that's not how we're going to make money. We're going to make money by winning as a team and getting promoted and getting to the top division.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see that model start to inverse.
I'm hoping.
Again.
No, but I have a.
I hate to be wearing these perfume-colored glasses, but I think what you'll find is that this is the beautiful vision.
So these are pretty tame.
Yeah, you said
it gets worse. It gets worse. Don't worry.
Is anything here pointed at Christian's comment?
This next one is kind of against Christian. It's this guy is at
shut up, Alexis. And Christian. Oh my god.
Oh, we will get to that in a second.
Yeah. I'm sure it's coming.
We're getting there. We're building our way
this
to the
foreplay.
But at over analyzing everything, that's his username.
All right.
Goes,
Okay.
people who are saying nobody will be watching because of this, but they are already doing well now. I'm sure more people will start watching than stop, and it will help grow in popularity.
Okay.
A point I made as well. Thank you. Overanalyzing everything.
Okay.
Is it
Finally,
my burner account? Who knows?
Yeah, finally, your overanalyzing has paid off.
Yeah. I think appropriately analyzing everything.
I think so. I think this is sort of in reference because I said something last week about people not watching, and it wasn't about people not watching just as a whole, like just because the quality is bad or blah blah blah.
You were talking about in reference to competing with
reference
MLS.
to competing with MLS,
Yes.
and again, I say this point again. And I didn't mention this last time, and I've said this before in the past, but my hope for promotion relegation and the way it would be implemented is some sort of a merger between MLS and USL. That was the hope. Like maybe an MLS 1-2 and then USL championship and so on and so forth.
That would take a massive change to MLS's
100%.
Business or USL.
100%. So but that is like when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, that they already have like structure in place. That
is the dream sequence,
that
right?
would be
Everyone
cool.
just work together and we figure this out.
As opposed to 2 Division 1s, which is I'm just saying that so Don Garber did put out a statement about the USL Pro Raw, and he did say that, hey, it's good for them. If that's what they want to do, go for it. If MLS decides to do that in the future, maybe we will, maybe we won't. Who knows? So at the very end, he's not going to say that's a terrible system and it'll never work for us.
Imagine he just comes out like, war for them.
So he's just being a businessman and doing what the owners.
He's giving a non-statement statement.
He's just like, hey, have fun with it.
Yeah,
if it's
that's cute for you.
It seems like they're saying like, hey, maybe let them try it.
Yeah,
it works for them, and then maybe they there's interest in that. Then maybe MLS does that.
So your nightmare sequence, I've given my dream sequence. The nightmare sequence is then MLS goes, then we'll also do promotion and relegation within ours. And now we have 2 Division 1s both doing promotion and relegation. And we're like, what the hell is going on here?
That's what I do not want.
So that is a possibility. I don't want to see a world where that exists.
So
what was this guy's name? Peaches and Cream?
No,
what was his name?
This is overanalyzed.
No.
Overanalyzed.
There's also overanalyzed?
Overanalyzing everything. That's his name.
He said both of these things?
No, he just said about the no one watching. I brought up the stuff about Garber and MLS, but so that's what all I'm clarifying is like I don't think that nobody's going to watch USL or that they need the best players so that people watch USL. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if you're competing with MLS and you're competing with Division 1, it's not gonna be a pretty little fight. That's all. It's not gonna be like, oh, cool, USL is doing their thing. It is going to be. We are going to poach players. We're going to get USL players that would probably go in Division 1 and try to get them in MLS. That's all I'm saying. And that fight, this is like
that fight's going to be with paying players.
Yes. But that fight is what I think is going to hurt the culture of the sport because it's like 2 corporations fighting against each other.
Competition, that's capitalism.
But it's capitalism.
And the sport,
but
the rest of the world is capitalism.
The first thing I thought of is the streaming sites. The streaming sites are all competing against each other and all losing money. They're all like, no, we have to be the best, and now we're all just going to lose money.
Well, then the one who survives makes all that money.
But it's not about survival. It's what ends up happening is they merge, they buy out people. And all I'm saying is like, why go through the whole fight when we know?
Just merge now.
All right.
Yeah, okay. Good point. It's not the way it works in this country.
But yeah, all right. What's next?
All right, next year, this is the one. I'm sorry, Alexis. Mr. Lee Crisp really came for you. All feelings, no facts. Will a competing USL team work in a major market like New York or LA, where there are already multiple established teams? They can work where there isn't anything better to do. Also, Alexis was mad annoying in this clip.
Yeah. I think I found my wife's burner. I mean, okay, fine, Mr. Lee Crisp. Clearly, we found my wife's burner. That's very nice of you. Sorry, that was mad annoying. But also, you say I have no facts. You ain't got no facts. The facts you're stating are, USL's only worked in secondary cities because that's been their business plan this whole time. Right, so, of course, it's going to work in the thing they're going after.
Because they don't want to compete with MLS.
Yeah, they're trying not to compete with MLS. And I don't know if you noticed, but MLS is trying to buy or build teams in some of those cities because they're like, wow, USL's doing a pretty good job. So there can be competition. They can compete. And maybe, just maybe, some of those major city large market clubs that aren't doing well just haven't built the support or haven't made themselves a part of the community. If it can work in Louisville and it can work in Detroit, there's no reason it can't work in Dallas. There's no reason it can't work in, another team in LA, or maybe just outside of LA, or maybe another team in New York. Yeah. Not all these things have to be true the way they are right now. It's simply about how a business is willing to go to market. I'm not going to sit here and say that MLS will completely collapse and then all of a sudden USL rises. But if for years we've been trying to decide whether promotion and relegation can work, and now it's presented, I have the feeling that it can work. So I'm going to present those ideas that way, and you're going to present ideas the other way.
Yeah. I would just say that we haven't seen a USL club compete with an MLS, in a big city and compete with an MLS club while Pro Rel has existed in their league, right? So that I think
we'll find out.
Yeah, that's the main thing. It's like, will that interest in promotion relegation be enough to get people just excited about going to games? Every game will matter more.
Right. Here's a good example. Brooklyn FC, right? Mm-hmm. You have a market that already has two teams, right? Here's Brooklyn FC. Let's say they get promoted. Will that create like fans that want to go there? Can they connect to a Brooklyn market that maybe want to go there, right? If there's a small team in LA, let's say Orange County, right?
Yeah.
If they suddenly get promoted and now they're like, oh, wait a minute. Fans want to go to that. I'm not saying it's going to be beat out LAFC or beat out LA Galaxy, which have two tremendous followings, but can there be enough people there to sustain a third team? There's no reason why that can't be the case.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the main thing. We will see.
If there's like 20 teams in London, we can have 3 in a city here.
Exactly. All right. What's next?
All right. Sorry, Christian. This one comes for you.
Finally. Hold on. All right. The audience.
At Vision-UF5MM. I don't... Okay.
I'll pronounce it later. I created it, so go for it.
Why is Christian a hater? Corporatist? Bro, support your local football club.
Oh, corporatist.
Okay, this is fine. Okay.
Now we get to the truth. The jersey you're wearing is made by Kellogg's.
I'll be so before you told us to not look at the comments, I did see this comment. Before I saw this,
you son of a gun.
I'm just gonna be honest because I don't want to pretend I didn't see it. I saw this a couple days ago. This is I don't understand I think the sentiment behind this comment
is that I'm for the people and you're not. You're for the pocketbooks.
I love corporations. I'm wearing this Palestine shirt.
Yeah.
I love businesses.
Yeah, it's Palestine Incorporated. They make widgets. They make widgets. Big widget company. It's on my Unilever.
Down with Ben and Jerry's. No, this is. I think the sense here is that. And I kind of said this on the pod last week, where I'm like, I'm not just blankly supporting MLS and everything that they do. I just, again, it is the competition aspect. I want Pro Rel just as much as everybody else. What I don't want is this competition of leagues fighting each other for. I want the pyramid, and we all understand it. And the country, we have all the clubs in the bottom of the pyramid trying to get. I want that. But what's going to happen with this Division 1, there's going to be a different type of fight because MLS wasn't always necessarily threatened by USL in any way, and I'm afraid of what some of the MLS owners are going to do in that competition. And we've already seen it with like,
there's going to be some dirty tricks, of course.
That's the main thing. So it's not about supporting.
I'm pretty sure USL's prepared for that though.
Probably, yeah, but it's just like we saw what happened with the San Diego Loyal and where the San Diego Loyal were trying to get into MLS.
Yeah.
And
Landon Donovan was part owner.
Exactly. And then MLS found a different ownership group, and they were like, all right, forget the Loyal. We have this gear.
How about this Loyal? Yeah.
So that is we see what they can be capable of when they want what they want.
To not try something because you're afraid of the other company's dirty tactics is a loss.
No, but I'm not saying to not try it. I'm just saying that again, there's going to be some bloodshed. There's going to be a dirty fight, which is like, as a fan of the sport, I just like don't want that fight, and I just want there to be pro-rel the way we see it in the rest of the world. And maybe, look, this is how we have to get there. Maybe it has to be a little bit dirty.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So that's where my sentiment is coming from, not because I'm just simply supporting the MLS owners or the MLS clubs. Or
Sounds like company talking points to me.
All right, what's
Carter?
that?
What else you got?
All right,
for
I
us?
felt bad, Christian. So we got someone who is defending you
Let's
here.
go.
I got nothing. I'm mad annoying, and there's God bless Christian.
At Thomas
People, we flick candles.
19064.
Oh, Thomas, and Gully Squad. Thomas,
Nice.
homie. Yeah.
He goes, to Christian's point, if the players or talent aren't there relative to MLS, soon USL will get the moniker of D1 in name only. That's the risk. Pro-rel as a primary gimmick is the differentiator needed early on, but they will need to ramp talent up after that.
Look at that.
But I don't think that that's something that needs to be done immediately. I don't disagree. And I think on the show, I agreed with you in the clip that to some degree, I don't necessarily think you need Premier League level players, like superstar level players, in order for this to work. If you are going for the community fan base, if you're going for 15 to 20,000 seat stadiums versus the 30, 40, 50, 80,000 seat stadiums, you don't need superstar names to fill that. It could be a small community club that is in D1 and it still gives you a robust viewing numbers. And you know what I mean? You don't need, like, Luton could win the Premier League and that's not going to kill Premier League's ratings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's a small city or a small town or with a small stadium. I just don't see that being the case. So I don't think you need superstar level players. But if you become a more robust selling league than MLS, you're probably already doing better. And I think we see that in Europe. People aren't not going to RS Anderlecht teams. I might have missed a letter there. RSC, Anderlecht,
I think, yeah.
Anderlecht games because they're not the Premier League. You know what I mean? People aren't going to are skipping out on PSV games because they're not Liverpool. That's not the case. It's the thing in front of you. Is it good and are we winning? And that's what's important. The level should rise steadily. It doesn't need to be at the top immediately. I don't think so in order to survive. I could be wrong.
I agree with that. And that's how it should be. You support your local club, and the club has been there for 120 years.
Wow, how the tables have turned, you corporatists.
But again, I keep bringing this up.
Yeah.
Is USL going to have the time to do that while also competing for that Division 1?
I think we're talking about two different things, though.
But
I don't think USL's survival, because they're surviving, depends on them being able to beat MLS.
At some point,
that could be years.
It could be years. I'm
Yeah.
saying, and we all want it to get to the point where the club is bigger than any individual player, and people will go and support the shirt
MLS
regardless
isn't
of
even
who's
there
wearing
yet.
it. What happened?
MLS isn't even there yet completely.
Correct. But the American sports mind is so used to having, we support the superstar, and that's how we get the narratives delivered to us, and like who we support and how we support them. Travis Kelce dating Taylor Swift is a big reason of why more people are interested in the Kansas City Chiefs, whether you like that or not.
Sure.
But that's just a reality.
But also, I can counter that with the Knicks. They were terrible for very long. They still sold out every game. There are sometimes
there are the most metropolitan city in the world
in which their soccer teams sometimes struggle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's instances where if you can connect yourself with that city and the people in that city, it doesn't necessarily matter if you don't have the biggest names. They will still come out to support. And to some degree, with USL making most of their money off the gate, I don't think we really need to worry. It's only growth. This is just growth if they can get the television numbers, especially at the end of the season when there's a relegation battle.
again, same thing I said last time. I hope it works out. That's really that's my main.
And by the way, that's facts, not just emotions.
All right, what's next?
All right, this is the last one. And before you give us your full spiel, I just want your answer to this. All right. At No Sleep Till Humboldt asks, how long until MLS and USL systems are consolidated into one superstructure like other pro sports leagues in the US, except this time with ProRel? So I just want to hear how long you think it'll take.
Never.
Oof. I'm not gonna say never. I think it could happen, especially if it's successful. But it might
it should happen, but I don't think it will.
I'm gonna say, I don't know. I'm gonna say 20 years from now.
Can I tell you why it'll never happen?
Why?
Because in order for that to happen, MLS can no longer be MLS. So MLS is a single entity. You know what I mean? MLS owns the player contracts. MLS owns the logos. MLS owns the trademarks. That would have to be dispersed. It would have to be broken apart and not the MLS that we know now, which I'm fine with if the owners decide that that's what they want to do. I'm fine with that being the case. And then it becomes independent clubs like what we see in Europe. And maybe they can link with USL and say like, all right, here's the structure. Or it would take USL not being USL and deciding we're going to go single entity, even though we have promotion and relegation. It's all an enclosed system, but we want to join with you. So it's going to have to take one of them coming to the other side. Whether it's the negative, I think we all see, which is USL expanding upon MLS's single entity system, which I think we all view as having survived MLS to this point, but has more negatives than positives now in the way the sport is viewed now. I think we would all agree on that. Or it would take MLS deciding, you know what? You own New York City, you own New York City FC. Red Bull, you own New York Red Bulls. San Diego, you own San Diego FC. And everyone go about their separate ways together, and let's all join into USL systems. We become, MLS Premier League. MLS becomes the Premier League, so to speak, and then Championship or whatever their Division 1 becomes the second division, and then we all just kind of join together in this big promotion relegation. I just don't see it happening. And first of all, it'll never happen because one of those two have to cease their operations as they exist right now. Because there's no harmonious way to do single entity.
But I don't think it's that big a deal to change that structure. It's like it's annoying and it'll be a big task. It would be
monumental because they fought it every step of the way, and they won the court case. They won a court case that allows them to continue this and not be considered a monopoly. So this would be huge. It would take a vote from the majority of the owners, if not all of them.
Again,
and do you think those NFL owners will agree to do that?
Well, the main point I'm making is that if USL and ProRel turns out to be successful, the owners will see that there's money there.
That may put pressure on them, and I think that's the world I hope for.
Yeah, and that's what I think ProRel will be successful. I think it can if MLS says, all right, let them do their own thing and don't get in the way. But that's not gonna happen. That's what I'm worried about.
It's not gonna happen.
That's what I'm worried about. Like because in a capitalist market, the competition is a real thing. How dirty are you gonna make that fight? Is what I'm worried about. But I think if USL not only just survive, but ProRel and games that are important and games that are on TV and just the narrative and the storyline is visible to all of us that we know these games matter. I think that.
So then, can I offer you a scenario, and then I want you to give me your idea? I know we have to run, but this is what I want to say last. San Diego paid $500 million. Let's just say that's the number moving forward. It's not going to grow from there. Signs are it may grow, but let's call it as it is. There's not any more really major markets that need a team, right? You'd have to consider adding a team to a major market that already has one, or going to a smaller, or adding a third to a super major market like New York or LA, right? That's probably not going to happen, not for $500 million, because there's probably some fear. Why would a group of investors decide to do that versus walk into USL with a lot of money and now more money to spend on building that team versus spending it just for the franchise fee to then build your team to get promoted to the top? When investors, what they look for is ways to multiply their money, right? I came in at 1x, now I'm at 10x. Whether that number is billions or a couple $100 million, to say you've 10x your investment in your asset is a big positive. That's like, oh, nice. Now I could borrow against this thing like the Glazers do. That's the kind of thing where you can walk into USL at a lower level. I think your overwhelming majority of billionaires would probably decide to do that thing where we keep more of our money in our pocket and we can spend it on building a team that gets up to the top of the ranks faster, like they decided to do with Wrexham, versus walking to MLS at $500 million. $500 million is more money than most Premier League clubs would charge. That's bottom of the table, obviously.
Yeah.
But think about that. And people are paying that for these MLS clubs. I don't know that billionaires would do that. Would you agree with me? It seems like a smarter investment to walk into a USL.
I agree with that. Yeah, and
so I think that's why there may be that shift.
Who's the owner of Bournemouth that was on Morning Footy? He said the same thing.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah,
he said he was like, I could have bought an MLS club, but like, why would I do that? It's just like it's so unbelievably expensive, and I can I can own a team, and it'd be just much more like financially reasonable. To do that with
it's crazy to suggest buying a Premier League team is financially prudent, but here we are.
Yeah, just the nature of the fact that you could lose out on your investment by not being in that league. You could lose a fair amount of money. But again, this is all dependent on how successful Pro Rel is. If they don't see dollar signs at the end of it, they're not gonna do it, and they're not gonna merge and all this other stuff. That again, I'm only saying that wishful thinking. It is my hope. Do billionaires behave in a way that is just altruistic and they just want to see a good? No, they don't, and I'm not expecting that either. But if the market forces them to say, where even MLS fans are like, hey, yo, they're doing some really fun stuff out there at USL. Like at the end of the day, it's just about selling tickets and moving some merch.
Yeah.
And some sponsorships. That's it. And if it's a possibility that the market moves in the direction of USL and Pro Rel, then they're going to be forced to make that decision. So, all right, Carter, thank you for.
I think you did a really great job picking the comments.
Yeah, this is what the community.
You couldn't find one more that was anti-Christian.
Is how the community feels. I don't know what to tell you.
I guess they just want to side with the big capitalist pig, Christian Polanco,
corporate shill that I am,
reading all this stuff from a deck.